All right, so this is The Making of Alien. This book is really thick, and I love it for that, just because it shows so much artwork and a lot of just interviews and details on how this book, well, how the movie was made, and I just love it. It's like one of the best making of books I've read lately. Now, this book was written by J.W. Rinsler, and he also made the making of Star Wars. So, if you guys are interested in Star Wars, I could do a video on that book as well. So, personally, I think Alien is probably one of the most important sci-fi movies ever made, and I say that confidently because it's just one of my favorite films of all time. Everything in this movie is just very essential, and it has trimmed a lot of the fat that most sci-fi movies tend to waste time on. And that's why I agree with the sentiment stated in this book that pretty much says this is the archetypal sci-fi story. Which makes sense because a lot of the inspiration and references that were used to make the movie came from a lot of the classic sci-fi movies and shows and books from the 1950s. Now, I'm going to be flipping through this book relatively quickly just because there's a lot of pages to cover, and I want you guys to just see all the content that's in there just in case you guys want to get it. That's mainly why I'm making these videos. It's just so you guys can see before you buy, but also just to share the art books I have, because I have a lot of art books, and I think it's kind of valuable to share it in this way. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about this movie and about this book. So apparently Ridley Scott, the director of the movie, was considered to be one of the biggest modern day television advertising directors at the time. But ironically, he didn't really have much interest in sci-fi films. He thought they were all kind of unbelievable, and they didn't really fool him into believing the world and the special effects and stuff like that. It was only until he went into the theater one day and decided to watch a film called 2001: Space Odyssey. So we have to thank Stanley Kubrick for changing Ridley's mind on sci-fi films. Another funny fact about Ridley Scott was that his parents actually discouraged him from watching sci-fi films due to most of the sci-fi of that time being vaguely related to, just bad sex movies, as they called it. But I guess you can blame the 70s for that. Now, somebody who I think doesn't get enough credit for this movie is the original writer, Dan O'Bannon. And it's actually kind of an interesting story how it all came about. You see, while Dan was attending the University of Southern California, he was actually friends with John Carpenter. The John Carpenter, the director of The Thing and many other great movies. And so they were really kind of working together to create a movie of their own. And this was surprisingly after being inspired by George Lucas, a previous student that had attended the same school. You see, after he had made a short film called, and this is a crazy name, THX 1138 4EB, he actually decided to remake it into a feature film with the same name in 1967. And so Dan and John, being who they were, decided to follow in his footsteps and make a feature film of their own. This film project ended up becoming a movie called Dark Star. So funny enough, during the process of making Dark Star, John and Dan basically realized that this movie was the property of the University of South California. And so Dan and John, being the anti-authoritarian people that they were, decided to basically steal the film from the school and just claim it for themselves and just really take it and finish it for themselves. Now, luckily, when they finally released the film, instead of the school kind of, suing them or whatever, they actually decided to just go with it and use it as a sort of recruitment tool for their school, which actually worked really well. Now, during Dan's process of making Dark Star, he actually was inspired to write some new material for a script called Memories. And this would evolve into a second draft called Star Beast, both of which were prototypes for the final script of Alien. Now, before Alien, Dan O'Bannon was actually hired by Jodorowsky, the Chilean surrealist filmmaker, and he was going to be in charge of all the special effects that, Jodorowsky had planned for his new Dune adaptation. But, as some of you know, that movie never made it to the big screen. Fortunately for us, though, a lot of the talent that was gathered by Jodorowsky would be recycled for the purpose of Alien. Now, something I find really crazy is Salvador Dali, the Spanish surrealist oil painter, who was initially hired to play the Emperor in Dune, was actually the one responsible for recommending H.R. Giger to Jodorowsky, but would eventually be hired back on to help out with the Alien on things like the actual creature's design and everything else aesthetically related to the Alien and its origins. At one point when O'Bannon met with Giger on the production of Dune, he was offered opium. And when O'Bannon had asked, why he took it, Giger said, "I'm afraid of my visions," which says a lot about the man and his art. But Giger's nightmarish visions were just one of many problems plaguing the production of Alien. From a ridiculously low budget to short schedules, feuds, lawsuits, iconoclastic artists, drugs, bursts of rage. It's a miracle that the movie even made it to the finish line. But regardless of the issues, the movie cemented its place in history. It's just an absolute classic. Another interesting fact about this movie was that during the process of writing the story, Dan O'Bannon was going through some intense chronic stomach pain, which would later be diagnosed as a disease called Crohn's disease. It was basically an inflammatory condition of the gastrointestinal tract. But at the time, he went on undiagnosed with this severe pain, for a very long time. And this is kind of what inspired the Chestburster, which is pretty horrific in its own right. But there's a lot of different sources of inspiration that this movie just took onto itself. Another one being the self-destruct sequence, which was an idea taken from an old techno thriller by Michael Crichton called The Andromeda Strain, which was later adapted to a film in 1971. And Michael Crichton was the same author who, made Jurassic Park, so that's pretty cool. Another big one was Planet of the Vampires from 1965, in which an expedition is drawn by a beacon to an alien spacecraft where they find the skeleton of a long-dead pilot. So if this sounds familiar, it's because, he basically took that idea and applied it to the space jockey, the one that we all know and love. And, there's actually a decent list of other movies and stories that influenced Alien. Some of them being, Queen of Blood, 1966, or the 1958 movie The Terror from Beyond Space. There was obviously 2001 Space Odyssey, There was Dark Star. In 1972, there was a movie called Godzilla versus the Smoke Beast. The Andromeda Strain from 1971. And Van Vogt's Discord in Scarlet. So there's a number of inspirations, and that's not all of them. So if you get this book, you'd have access to all that interesting information. Just a comment on the book itself. A lot of the pictures and images and information, it's just such high quality. There's so much great imagery and concept art from some of those great artists that helped Ridley Scott bring this to life. We got some of Ron Cobb's concept art, some of Chris Foss. That's something you have to really appreciate in today's world, because all that concept art was just hand drawn, hand painted. It took really, really great skill to achieve those kind of images back in the day. They didn't really have much help in computers and helpful tools like Photoshop and 3D. So you had to really know your craft back in the day. And I think that's what makes some of the art just really great and stand the test of time. It had the fundamental backbone of good craftsmanship. So if I can say anything to the new generation of artists today, it's to not depend too much on all these different new tools like AI and even 3D to a certain extent. It's all helpful, and it's all great tools to help us achieve higher levels in our artwork. But if you don't have the fundamentals, you will be lost, and you'll just kind of squander those tools, and you'll depend on them. And that's not really what you want. So if you have any desire to be one of the greats one day in your life, you'll be sure to kind of cultivate your own styles and your own understanding of the fundamentals, so that people can look back and really say, this person had something unique, had something special. But altogether, this movie is just one of my favorites. Like I said, it's inspired me to try and make my own movie, try and make something of the kind that can honor the legacy of this film and many other great sci-fi space films. And yeah, what can I say? It's just a perfect film. And also consider the fact that this movie was supposed to be a B film, and I guess it was just the masters at work, the talent that really just held this up and made it an absolute just quality high-end film. And let me know if this movie has inspired you guys to do something great. How do these classic films affect you, and how important is this film for you guys? I am sure that there's tons of people out there that share the same love and devotion to Alien as much as I do. So let me know in the comments. But hope you guys enjoyed this book tour. This was a pleasure making for all of you. And if you guys are interested in more art books, there'll be more videos coming along the way. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments in the comment section below. talk to me about Alien. Talk to me about this stuff. I love conversation about this. I love just talking about these amazing films. And don't be scared to recommend me some, because I'm always looking for good film. It could be B movie, A movie, it doesn't matter. Just if it's good, I'm ready. But again, thanks for coming, guys. I left the link in the bio so you guys can find the book. But subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I'll be back soon with some more videos. See you guys later.